Alright, so I wake up in the morning, I sit down behind my computer, I make myself a nice cup of tea, and I open up my emails. And to my surprise, there was no partnership, no sponsorship, no affiliate program, no letter of termination. Instead, there was an email titled, "Fulda is not a bad map." And I swear to God, I've never clicked on an email faster. So I open it up, and I got an email from Mr. Damien, I'm going to read it. I'm going to read it for you. He said, "Hi Orange, I've seen you complain a lot about the new Fulda map. You have absolute right to have your opinion, but in my point of view, this map is great and you can do really well at it even if you play as a dork. As a proof, I send you a replay. Have a good time, wink face." Mr. Damien, thank you so much for taking the time to actually write that email to include one replay with it. I did not watch the replay, I don't need to, I played the game myself. But yeah, definitely gave me inspiration to make a video, and here it is. Here's a review of Fulda. Fulda that is not a bad map.
Free Golden Eagles for War Thunder. Download the app in the description below.
Hey guys, welcome back to War Thunder. Welcome to the 50% of new content when it comes to new maps in patch 1.71. We are talking, of course, about the Fulda Gap. Consider this a bit of a map review. I will try to do my best to go into the details of the map, but for starters, I want to give this map a bit of a different nickname, because I don't like to call it Fulda Gap. Really, what I like to call it is the spawn in, drive for 5 minutes, get killed, respawn SPA, drive for 5 minutes, get killed, leave the match gap. That's essentially what this is. Now, I know somebody got extremely offended in the last video, calling me deconstructive in the comment section because I said Spain should be removed. And I'll say it again, Spain should be removed. The reason I said that is because I understand the map, I've played on it probably more times than the average player has, and I've also talked to several very experienced jet pilots who play jets every single day, and their opinion is no different. But I didn't have time to go into details, and the reason that didn't happen is because I have 12 minutes to go and explain how the MiG-15 BIS performs, how I like it. It was supposed to be a video about the MiG-15, ended up ranting about the map because I find it extremely annoying. I'll explain it right now because we've got plenty of time on Fulda before we actually reach the capture points. There's two types of maps in the game. There's good maps and then there's bad maps. Now, my definition of a good map is as follows. It doesn't matter what vehicle you want to play, you'll be able to play it. On a bad map, you're going to start struggling. Now, the difference between ground forces maps and aircraft maps is that on ground forces you have something called a lineup. So if I'm playing my German 7.0, I could have spawned the Panther, the RU-251, a Kugelblitz, a Coelian, any tank that I've selected in my lineup, I can take it out. So in technical strategy, theoretical approach, I can have 10 different tanks I could play right now. In aircraft, you don't. You have to take whatever you've chosen. And as an example of a bad map means it forces you to play a certain type of vehicle because it gives that vehicle a huge advantage. If you're playing on Kursk, you're probably spawning in 80 GMs. If you're playing on Fulda, you're probably not spawning in the Mouse. And if you're playing in air battles on Spain, I really don't think that you're going to spawn in with a big smile on your face when you want to play the Kai 200 or the ME163. Now, obviously, players can make them work, and they'll have to make them work because they're forced to play in it, but if aircraft had lineups, the same way that McChickenbites pointed out in his last video, some of those maps will actually become available. Still, Spain follows a procedure called subjective opinions of the map. When I say Spain is a bad map, it's a bad map, but it's also unenjoyable to play on. It falls in both categories, and when I have to classify what for me an unenjoyable map is, it's a map filled with AI, dense structure of AAA around the airfield, a lot of water surfaces, and very, very annoying gamma. And so for me, Spain is a map that fits the definition of a bad map, but is also a map I don't enjoy playing on, right? If a map was bad, and I enjoyed playing on it, then I wouldn't really mind it, My subjective opinion will take over the final decision. But then you have maps like Fulda. Fulda is a map that is good. It's actually a great map. It's beautiful. It might be one of the best maps Gaijin has designed in the past 5 years of me playing the game. Unfortunately, I don't enjoy playing on it, but I would like to. And whilst I know that quite a lot of people enjoy these large open ground maps, let me just cleverly remind you that the larger the map is, the less engagement time you're going to have, the more time you're going to spend in a game just driving around in your tank, and the less experience you will get. The bigger the map is, the more time you will spend in it, and the smaller the reward will be. For all of you who want to grind in this game, you know, with its already extremely slow model in ground forces, these maps are just making it slower. Now, if you are immensely enjoying playing yourself on Fulda, then I guess that could overweigh the counterpart, but I think for most players, the larger the map it is, the smaller the progression will be. So, quick little fix, take the spawn points, move them closer to each other, and probably you have one of the best maps in the game. For people who like tank combat in cities, people who like tank combat on open ground, people who like ATGMs, this map has a little bit of everything, but to make it playable and overall adaptable to every single player and their playstyles, just make it a little bit smaller. I think that's more about my opinion on the map, but I want to focus on the gameplay from this point on because this is where the gameplay actually begins. I hope you enjoy the initial 5 minutes of driving around in a heavy tank. Here it is, an IS-6 versus a 10.5 centimeter Tiger. I'm going for the shot trap. I miss it, I hit the cannon barrel, and I know that that repair is going to be between 20 to 30 seconds, so I can ignore him and instead focus on the T-54 that is now jeopardizing my teammate in the capture point. If you look at the map, most of my team is near Alpha, which means they're protecting it. I am on Bravo, I am attacking it. Literally, rush B suke bliat. First target I engage the T-54, I want to get him out of the match as soon as possible. He's side on, easy target, and I immediately spot a T-34-100. He's gonna have a shot on me, so I want to angle my tank, and just before he fires, I'm going to keep the turret slightly angled, which means he goes for that weak spot, he misses it, and we finish him off with a pretty much, not a lower glacis shot, but when I'm shooting at T-34s, I shoot at the lower part of the upper glacis, which tends to result in a, obviously, immediate penetration, but it goes straight through the machine gunner driver, back of the turret, and also the ammo rack if needed. It's a very, very simple way to get one-shot kills on these Russian mediums. Now, I haven't finished off the IS-6 yet, but I also want to make sure that this capture point starts to get drained, and I immediately spotted that the ticket bleed was actually not going down, it was going up. So there's somebody capping. So we're going to move around here, we're going to try to find him, and it's an IS-6. I mean, out of all tanks, the most aggressive one in here is an IS-6. We just go for the lower part of the hull on the left flank, and it goes straight through, kills the crew members, and that's now every single tank that could be protecting Bravo eliminated. Now, what I could do from this point on is sitting, just staying in the same spot, helping the ticket bleed, but there's no point. With these dual capture points, just drive through it, uncap it, and just let the time do its work. What we're going to do is we're going to go back over to the ridgeline, and we're going to start re-engaging the IS-6, which so far hasn't died yet. How do I know he hasn't died? Because there's been no assist that's popped up. By keeping attention to the kill feed, if I got an assist, I would have known, yeah, somebody finished off the IS-6, but as it is, I know he's still in the same spot, and this ridgeline should be a very perfect spot to hide from. A little bit of binoculars, push out, and there's two tanks now. We've got an IS-6 and a T-54. The IS-6 is not looking at me, so I go for the T-54 instead because he's side on, it's an easier kill, eliminate him, and then again, duck back into cover. At this point, unless the T-54 immediately goes on the map and spots me and the IS-6 sees it, the IS-6 is going to stay in the same spot. And the reason I didn't bother with the IS-6 is because he's put himself into an unangled position, right? The IS-6 armor is angled. What he's done is he's positioned it so perfectly that when I pushed out from the ridgeline, he's actually made his already angled armor flat by sitting on the side of a hill. So I got a very, very easy kill there. And I can push out of this ditch now, stay around the area. I'm trying to make sure that nobody goes around the flank because I am completely alone on this side of the map and I don't want to get outflanked because if that happens, we could be in a, well, we're going to be back in another tank, but we're going to have to drive again for 5 minutes before we reach combat. So I want to stay alive for as long as possible. I have no need to push into the enemy spawn point, and whilst I'm being strafed by the enemy, I think Yak 3P, you know, obviously you're going to take a few shots at them, and eventually you might even shoot them down, but for the time being, just kind of annoy them. A Yak 3P flying around can't do any damage. He can spot you, but again, you can see nobody on the actual minimap is in SPA close enough to cover me, so I have to rely on my own protection here. I've got no smoke grenades yet, that's what we're currently unlocking, so I'm just going to stick around this house and wait, because once the tickets have started bleeding and I've spotted the last of the enemies, there's a T-34-100 there, pushing along the ridgeline, simple side kill. And yeah, I retrace here backwards. I don't think there's much of a danger for the Yak 3. I just don't want to get spotted for the flank, so I figured, screw it, we're going to go back into the capture point. It's time to engage the ticket bleed. And the reason I did that is because if you look at the map, there's a Crusader coming in. There's a AAA slowly closing into my location, and that means that I've got aircraft protection, and so I can be a little bit more aggressive on the actual cap. And as soon as I move back into it, I see somebody's actually doing the capture point again. I'm thinking, okay, another medium, and no, it's a BT5. A very smart spawn, to be honest. A BT5 means, you know, very fast progression from their spawn to our capture point, but it's still a BT5. It's not going to win the match. And in matches like these, I'm going to give you a tip. When it comes to a double capture point, there's only one real way to win. Either you have to focus entirely on protecting your capture point, which was what my team was doing here, or you have to go and just full try hard, go for the capture point of the enemy, cap it, and you'll win the game. So for me, since I was going through the spading or respading process of the TAM 05 Tiger, I figured it would be more efficient, time-wise, to just go for the capture point, because I've already done, like, what, 6 or 7 kills? You know, going and protecting Alpha at this point is not worth my time, so instead I'm going to sit in here, make sure we get the capture point located, and win the match as is. And this is something that I really want to point out. I understand large maps, I do, and I understand why people like Kursk, but it's a blatant benefit for players who enjoy camping, you know, and in the old days, I think Kursk was favored by German tanks, you know, Tigers and whatnot, because they could sit on the ridge lines and snipe across for T-34s. But you have to understand that every single map is played at every BR, right? And maps like these, whilst I think enjoyable with fast-paced medium tanks and light tanks, are hell for any kind of enthusiast heavy tanker, purely because it's not worth spending 3.5 minutes of driving across the battlefield so you can then attempt to capture one capture point. At the moment, I've got 7 kills. This match is virtually over. The only way the enemy can not lose is by taking a tank, killing me, or preventing the capture point by eliminating me in any shape, way, or form. Now, and the cruel reality is the match is over. We've won. I've just won the game for my team purely by sitting in the enemy capture point. Even if the enemy spawns in a really fast medium tank, they can't prevent it. The distance between the spawn is just too great. Enemy close air support wasn't present on the map because the only person who was actually able to spawn a plane was the person in the Act 3. And obviously you can attribute these to, you know, our team being far superior than the enemy's. But I'll tell you, from the probably about 50 matches minimum that I've played now on Fulda, there's one thing that's very, very simple to point out. Matches here take 33% longer, and there's nobody spawning SPA, which means there's going to be less kills distributed between teams. With this particular match lasting about 12 minutes or so, and with us getting a total of 7 kills, that is approximately just over 1 kill every 2 minutes. And I'll tell you from personal experience with the Tank RB current grind that we've got, it just isn't very efficient. And so next time I get Fulda Gap, I'm demotivated to actually play, because even though this was a beautiful match and I enjoyed playing it, I enjoy showing it to you, I mean, the best part is we spent 8 out of the 12 minutes in combat, we got 7 ground kills, we did a solo capture on the objective, we had a 50% Silverliar and 50% RP booster, and all we get is a measly 5,500 research points for the smoke grenade unlock. Once again, a beautiful map, but horribly optimized considering the already slow research point gain. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll catch you in the next one.